Okay, so we're continuing here talking about the debate paper and searching for sources. And I mentioned that with this particular article, Progression on Nickelodeon, Gender Role Stereotypes in Toy Commercials, this abstract, which is a summary of the article, this leads me to think that there might be some interesting information here that's relevant to the debate. So then I would come over here and click on the PDF full text so I could read the complete article. But there is a skill at reading these articles because often academic articles are quite lengthy. So what I would do is, I've read the abstract, I would read the introduction, and then and they, so they're giving us a review of the literature. They're telling us what's already been written about this topic. So there might be some information, there that, we could work into an argument. And then I would come down to the conclusion. So once I know what it is that they were doing in this particular study, I'd come down to the discussion. So they're saying here in the discussion, this is what our research means. This is what we found. And then typically it kind of goes into a conclusion. So, this study was in 2010, so it's not, necessarily up to date. In the directions for the paper, I asked you to use sources that are 2012 to the present. So if you happen to look at many sources and you find, hey, I'm not finding too much more, or maybe I really like that article that's from 2010. If it was me, I would go on, and if I felt strongly about the source, I would go on and use the source, even if it's, maybe just a couple of years later than, what the requirement is. And, I will still probably note it in your paper. I may say, sources or this source is a little old, but sometimes the information is compelling and it helps you kind of build, some strong arguments. So then I see it as kind of worth it to go on and do that, because it's better to use a source that's maybe a little old than be lacking a source. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so now, I've looked at this, let's say, and I'm going to go back to my result list. Also, by the way, what I should mention is that, for those of you who do not know, that once you look at a source, let me go back to, here. So over here, there are, they give you, the Chaffee database search gives you assistance as far as citing, how to cite sources. And in the paper, in the instructions, I indicate to use APA or MLA citation format. So if you're using APA here, all you have to do is highlight this and copy and paste it into your paper. So you have the citation right there. So that is an academic citation for APA. So that's the APA format. But they also have other formats here, such as MLA. So you can use either one of those. Okay. And again, that's just right over here. You can also email an article to yourself. So it's really quite cool for someone like me who enjoys doing this sort of thing. Okay. So initially I typed in portrayals of sexual orientation, and so I'm going to say sexual orientation and gender diversity. I'm going to try that. And mass media. And just, kind of see what I come up with. So I'm going to change the search a little bit. And this is, the kind of thing that, is necessary to try to get Oh, only two. Okay, so probably only two sources here. So what that tells me is that I probably was a little too specific. So I'm going to maybe take out sexual orientation and this time try gender, or rather, I'm going to go back to sexual orientation and maybe try just diversity and then leave mass media there and see what happens. Okay, so a few more. Communication boys receive about sex from parents, peers, and the media. That's not, doesn't sound like what we're looking for. Okay, so let me try something again. Sexual orientation and mass media. So let me try that. And search. And so then now I have 40 sources, so that gives me more to look through. And so somewhere in here there may be some articles that I can use, or at least a couple of articles that I can use. And you can possibly, you may come across articles that are focused on other cultures, so outside of the United States. And that also is a possibility. So if you find a good argument that is pertaining to, like here, this is, this is not exactly what we're looking for, but this just as an example of how it focuses on French magazines. So if you find something that is focused on a different culture, then you may be able to still pull out some, construct some good arguments. Okay. So that is doing a search on the Chaffey College database, the library database. And with this, we obtain academic sources that are appropriate to use with your debate paper. So let me come back to the debate instructions. So your paper itself is going to look, this is kind of the sample outline that I provided. Your paper is going to be in outline form. So you'll have the topic of the debate, and this is just a sample topic. This is not your debate topic this semester. And then you'll have yes arguments, maybe a couple of paragraphs for your yes arguments. You're not using first person in your yes arguments, and you're not using first person in your no arguments. You're going to be speaking with an academic voice because you're not talking about your personal opinion. So I'm not interested in your opinion in these sections. I'm not interested in, personal experiences or friends or so forth, because it's important to learn how to look at these research academic articles and books and be able to look at what the research says about these topics. The last section of your paper, or the third section of your paper rather, is your personal view. So there you'll describe your personal opinion on the debate topic in one paragraph. You don't need to cite any sources here. And some of this information can go into your post that will be on Moodle. So you'll have something a little bit more that's on Moodle, but this will be part of it. And you have your reference list. So again, you can use APA or MLA format. Sources that are considered to be not academic, non-academic sources are things like newspapers, websites that are ending in .com. Some .orgs are acceptable. Only some .edus are acceptable. For .edus, what I notice is that sometimes maybe it's like a PowerPoint presentation, and there are no academic references that are provided. It's just someone's, PowerPoint. Sometimes we don't even know who the author is, and we don't know how they kind of, what sources that they use to, put out this information. That should not be used. So that is not appropriate to use for this academic research paper. Okay, so I hope I am answering some questions here. So when you go through the instructions. Please go through and read and contact me if you have questions, if I'm skipping over something that you think is important. So the last thing I'd like to show you is just a sample debate paper. And this was one from several years back. And so we have, so on the title page, the student has, and back then I used three debates per semester, so now we have one. And this was our debate question. And student's name, class, my name, and the date. So this is the information you should have on the title page. So the title of the debate, your name, the class, my name, and the date. And I don't know if I said something slightly different in the first video, but I think this is a good title page, so this is what you should have. And okay, yes, arguments. So that should be plural, yes, arguments. And so this student has gone through and in one paragraph kind of talked about yes arguments on this debate question. She has a couple of quotes that she's included. So these are short, these are brief quotes, and that's fine to use. And so you can, sometimes if you're having difficulty figuring out how to put what a source says into your own words, then sometimes it can help to pull out maybe one sentence and then right after that sentence, then summarize in your own words, okay, what does this mean? How does it fit into the debate question? So that's what this person has done. Very important to use your quotation marks. So she has her quotation marks and she's given me the author's last name and the page where the quote has come from. And then similarly for the no arguments, so you should have multiple yes arguments and multiple no arguments. For the no arguments, a couple of quotes, not too many, don't use too many quotes. So this one's a little bit longer. This is 2 sentences rather than 1. So be careful to not use too many because you don't want to rely on your sources because you are writing the paper. And the sources are just used sometimes to kind of make a good point. Sometimes, a source, an author will say something and they put it really well. So you want to include it. And then, you can, right after that, you can kind of paraphrase, put it in your own words. But if you do not want to use quotes from sources, you don't have to. Even if you don't quote directly from a source, in each of these paragraphs, in the yes paragraph and the no paragraph, you still need to indicate what sources that you used, what sources that you consulted for the paper. So the information is coming from somewhere, right? You're using these academic sources, so you're not just kind of making things up on your own. So it's important to cite your sources. So you can do it just like you have here in parentheses, except, it will be maybe at the end of the paragraph, you might have Starbuck 258 and a semicolon, and then Stets 492. So that would be an example of how you would cite the source in the body of your paper when you have borrowed information from those sources. And then at the end of the paper, here's your personal view, which you'll have, and then your references. So your reference list using APA or MLA format. So it's a short debate paper, but it gives you good practice in consulting sources, academic sources, and good practice in developing these arguments based upon your academic sources. Okay. So I think that is it. I think that is mainly what I wanted to show you. So again, your debate question is, should the mass media portray more images of sexual orientation and gender diversity to audiences of all ages? And if you have any further questions for me, then please get in contact with me. Please don't hesitate to ask. it's not a bother at all, or if you would like to even stop by. Some of you, if you're on campus, you can stop by and speak with me during my office hours. So I am here in my office hours, unless I post, a notice saying that, I have something, I won't be here. I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. and that is at the Rancho campus in the Social Sciences building. Okay. And then I also have those virtual office hours on Wednesdays. Okay. So good luck with your paper. So kind of sifting through these sources. You have just slightly less than 2 weeks to finish your debate paper. And again, get in contact with me if you have any questions. Okay, good luck.